Color blocking is one of the easiest skills you can do with dip nails, but when I first started, I was really nervous to do it. But don't worry, I'm going to help you. What's up, nail crew? It's Nicole, your fellow nail obsessed DIYer. We are doing some really easy color block nails today. I know a bunch of you have asked me how exactly you do color blocking when you wear peel base. So I'm going to help you out and get you started. When you're wearing peel base and you want to do a color block, because you have to put the tape down, you want to make sure that you either do a layer of clear over your peel base or you do a layer of dip base over that peel base and make sure it's fully dry. This is going to keep the peel base intact when you go to lift up the tape. So I like to use this little thin nail tape. I found it off Amazon. I will make sure that I link it in my description. It's really nice. It sticks well, but doesn't pull up the dip base when I'm doing color blocking. So I've started to use that, and it's not so big and thick, so it doesn't end up over as much of your nail as like the really thick painter's tape or masking tape that I used to use. I absolutely love the look of a diagonal color block on short square nails. I just feel like it makes the design pop so much more. So that's what I wanted to go with today. When you're applying your dip base on the one side of your nail, you really want to try to keep the dip base off the tape. If you get a little bit over, it's okay, but the more you keep it off the tape, the better your one side of your dip is going to stay intact when you pull that tape up. I hope I'm explaining that right. My words are not coming out of my mouth very well today. Okay, so once you get the dip base on your one side, I like to pour the powder over. I typically start with my solid or my shimmer on my color block. That is so that I don't get any glitter into my color block. Now, once in a while, I'll start with the glitter, but it's really like that's when it's a very specific design. But for the most part, you want to start with your solid or your shimmer, because you're going to see when we coming up here why it's good to do that. So I do 2 layers of the color and then 1 of the clear, which I'll do later in the mani once I have the glitter over the other half of the color block nails. I find that doing all of my solid or shimmer nails first just really helps me like get into a good groove and not get any glitter contaminated into them. So you'll see in my color block that I do get a teeny bit of glitter onto the shimmer side, but I try really, really hard not to. I pretty much do this, whatever kind of mani I'm doing that I'm using a glitter, I try to do my solids and shimmers first. When you're pulling off the tape off of those color block nails, you want to be super, super gentle. If you yank it off too fast and wild, you might accidentally pull off some of that dip and you won't get that nice straight line. So this is something that I've had to force myself to do, to really try to be gentle when I'm pulling off the tape so that I don't pull up any of the dip. I keep it like nice and intact and keep that line really straight. The nice thing about this nail tape is it doesn't like stick super hard. It sticks hard enough that you won't get any of the dip on the other side of the color block, but it doesn't stick so hard that like it suctions down to your nail and will not move. Then you want to go through and do your second layer. Make sure you do that on your color block nails. And if you did any nails with that same color, do that first. Now, I like to go through and apply activator to half of the color block side. This is going to keep your solids and shimmers nice and intact before you go and add glitter or whatever other color you're doing on the side, the other side of your color block. It's going to keep them from getting contaminated with it. So I applied the activator to the 2 nails that have color block, and then I went through and did the clear on the nail that just has that color. Oh, I forgot to say what the colors are. Shut the Front Door is the shimmery white, and it has like this pinkish purple shimmer into it. It is so gorgeous, and it glows literally like could flag down a plane with the amount that it glows. And the glitter that I'm using is called UR. They are both from OG Dip Powder. Now we're jumping in with the glitter, and if you've seen any of my other videos, you know that I absolutely love to lay my nail flat for glitters. It is like my tried and true method, no matter what kind of glitter I'm using, whether it's a chunky, fine, medium, anything like that, I lay my nail flat. So I pour it into a little dip cup liner. And if you don't have any of these dip cup liners, you can also use cupcake liners. I will say that I tended to knock over the cupcake liners way more often because these dip cups are heavier. I don't knock them over as much. Then you want to put a piece of tape on one of the fingers of your other hand. That way you don't get dip base or glitters all over your skin, and you can press the glitters down. Even though this is a more fine glitter and it really like doesn't sit up at all, I just like to press it down just to make sure all the glitters are sitting as flat as possible and laying like down into each other. It just helps your nail not be as thick. So it's out of habit that I do this. I probably don't need to do it for fine glitters, but I'm going to keep doing it because, sometimes you just do things with your nails that it just feels right to do because you've gotten into such a habit. This is definitely one of those things for me. If you're dipping with any kind of color that gets stuck on your brush or glitter or shimmer, something like that gets stuck on your dip base brush, just take a lint-free wipe or a paper towel and wipe the brush off a couple times to make sure that whatever pigment or glitter transferred onto the brush doesn't go back into your bottle. So you're going to keep your bottles a lot cleaner if you do it this way. I used to keep bottles for solids and then for shimmers and glitters, but I kind of got away from doing that. I just got lazy, and not even lazy, I kind of just forgot about labeling my bottles and kept using them. So I used to like put an S on one for solids and a G on another for glitters, and then I just forgot about it and haven't done it in a while. So sometimes when you see some of my solids or shimmers, you might see a stray glitter in there, but that's okay. I'm not super particular. If you are somebody who is super particular about your nails and you don't want to have any kind of cross-contamination, I would do a separate dip base for your solids and then one for pretty much everything else. I mean, you could do one for shimmers and then one for, glitters, flakes, foils, all that, if you really want to make sure that you don't ever get anything contaminated. Now, if we're talking about clear dip powder, I definitely think it is a huge, huge help to have multiple clear jars so that you don't get your clear contaminated, because the glitter is going to get into the clear no matter how hard you try. So when you're doing glitter on the other half of a color block, you want to be very, very careful that you keep your dip base only on the area that the glitter is going to be. So you really want to be careful when you're applying it. Don't slop it down. I know sometimes I do that, but I try when I'm doing my second half of the color block to very, very gently apply the dip base, that I'm not getting it over the line and messing with that, nice, really straight line that you just did. Then you want to lay your nail flat into it, and it's okay to lay your nail flat because you've already activated the other side and your glitter is only going to stick where you put the dip base. So it works really well to do that extra activator before you try to go and do your other side of the color block with the glitter. Now, something that you do want to make sure that you do, I always try to do this, is I let the solid or the shimmer like I have on this one, I let the activator fully dry it before I go in with the glitter, because you don't want the activator to be drying and then pick up some of the glitter pieces because it's not fully dry. So I did my other two nails with the glitter, the thumb and the pointer, before I went in and did the other half of the color block. This way the activator had fully dried the shimmer side of the color block. That's just like a little extra tip, especially if you're somebody who struggles with color block and maybe you're a little bit messy of a dipper like me. Just some extra little tips to help you get the best possible results you can. Once you're finished with all the color blocking, then you want to make sure that you brush off the excess powder really well before you go in with the clear. That is something that I do no matter what kind of design I'm doing, or even if it's just, a solid nail. Brushing off the excess glitter is going to keep your nails from getting as bulky. Then you go in, you apply your clear dip powder over them, you brush that off, and you can do your activator. And once your nails harden, you can buff, shape, and file them. And I wanted to show you a little bit of, my trick to getting really nice cuticle lines is using a cuticle bit. I don't apply my dip powder perfectly every time, so I like to go around with a cuticle bit and make sure that my cuticle lines are nice and clean. This bit is a Pana Extra Fine barrel bit, and I have to say it is really sharp, so you have to be super careful when you're using it if you aren't comfortable with using a really sharp bit to go around, because you definitely don't want to cut your skin or accidentally go into your nails. You can also use, there's another one, it's a Pana 5-in-1 bit that I use, and I will link both of those in the description. They are both two that work really, really well to get that really nice crisp cuticle line. Now I can go into top coating, and this is my favorite part of every mani, just because it's finally coming together. I'm like, yes, I get to see how it looks top coated. Whatever dip liquids you're using, definitely follow their top coating instructions. I've used over 30 brands now, and definitely all the dip liquids top coating process is a little bit different. So you don't want to just stick with like the whatever directions you use for the last set. Make sure you look at whatever the instructions are for the liquids that you're using. For these, the OG dip powder ones, you do heavy activator on 5 nails from thumb to pinky. Then when you get to your pinky, you want to count to 10 and then go in with the first layer of top coating back on your thumb in 2 to 3 quick, even, thin strokes. I do this method that is called floating. So floating is where you barely touch your nail. You just want the dip top coat to float over the top of your nail. You don't want to press it down in hard. I do that with both layers for OG dip liquids, and really any dip liquids I use, I always float it over. I found that you're way less likely to contaminate your brushes, which means that you'd be getting them hard if you do this floating over. I've noticed some brands, when you press the brush in really hard into your nails, the top coat brush, it tends to get hard. So I avoid that by just floating over both layers of my dip top coat, regardless of the brand I'm using. Now that you know how to color block, check out this next video and we'll talk all about how to get perfect cuticle lines. Thanks for joining me today, nail crew.